Odell Beckham Jr. Post-draft, teams address their needs.
Yeah.
And guys who might be thinking, I should be getting more than what anyone is offering, reach the acceptance stage following anger, denial, bargaining, depression. And I think that's what happened with Odell Beckham Jr. I was wondering when he was finally going to accept, nobody's paying me $15 million fully guaranteed. Nobody's doing that. And I think the Ravens kind of did that a little bit to get Lamar Jackson back under the tent last year.
You always said
I think
that.
at some level.
Yeah,
I think at some level,
right.
That was an investment aimed at getting Lamar to sign. And from that perspective, it was money well spent because it got Lamar back to sign his contract. Nobody was paying him $15 million. He ended up making $16 million last year because he had a $3 million incentive package. He hit a third of it. It was low bar. He only hit one of the bars to get an extra $1 million. Now it's, and we know this routine, NFL media, up to $8.25 million for Odell Beckham Jr. Yeah, up to $8.25. What's the base salary? Oh, ESPN.com came in later. $3 million is the base. $5.25 million in incentives. We still haven't seen the triggers to get to 8.25.
Yeah.
But to go from 15 to 3, I mean, that's a rude awakening for Odell Beckham Jr. But I think he finally realized, if I want to play this year, that's my best deal. That's where I got to go. And, he's going to a place where we were saying last week, already with Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, if we're going to do the best trios, it could be Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle, and me, and it's the best trio of receivers in the NFL. You put OBJ in there, you got the best three across the board, no question.
Yeah, listen, OBJ's got juice in the tank, so we know that. Is it like it used to be? No, it's not, right? I mean, he's at a point in his career with his age and, last year's production and all that where, he's got a little bit of an injury history. So I don't think that's going to make, some teams feel warm and cozy about, hey, let's sign the older receiver who, dealt with a knee injury, 2 out of 3 years, right? And this was the first year back and healthy and looking like himself. So between that, lack of production last year, right, clearly not being the best receiver on the Ravens, and really towards the end of the year, the little bit they showed themselves. It was Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. So he's got to be picky about where he chooses. And I'm not shocked. I feel like I could have called this. I do. One, hey, you kind of said it. It's a system, an offense that's wide open, right? He's gonna have beneficial matchups, and he's not gonna have the attention on him. So he's going to a place here where he goes, wait, I'll settle for maybe a little less money. Maybe he did have offers at other places, but he looks at it and goes, wait, no, this is a place offensively. It's going to be fun living here. Miami, we joked last week, right? What star does not live down in the Miami area or doesn't want to live in Miami right now? They have the inside track on these type of players right now because it's so popular. It really is. So they get that. He gets that. He gets to stay in the limelight and has a chance to put up numbers and stats and be on a winning team to where he can continue to prolong his career and collect checks the right way. So I'm not mad at him for this decision. In fact, if you made me guess 2-3 weeks ago where Odell Beckham Jr. would have landed, I would have said the Miami Dolphins, as long as he was willing to take a little less money like we're seeing.
Well, the only team I think he visited was the Dolphins.
Yeah,
and
that's all I know.
They didn't get a deal done right away because Odell Beckham Jr. wanted more than what the Dolphins were willing to offer. Apparently, there are reports he could have made more elsewhere if he wanted Miami. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I've been fed enough bullshit over the years. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. If you could have made more money somewhere else, go make it. And if you're going to say that, tell us who. Give us names. Let us confirm it. Because it just feels like he's saving face. Well, I only took 3, and, I could have made – it's like the guy in high school that says, well, I could have gotten an A on the test if I'd studied. Well, then study for the damn thing. Don't give me that bullshit. I just don't buy it. I do not buy it. You got to give me names, and you got to give me numbers, and then I'll begin to buy it because it's too easy for anyone to say that because we know that Odell is a lot about appearances and perceptions, and he doesn't want to be perceived as a guy who went from 15 down to 3. But regardless, that's the deal you took. And I'm just not going to – I'm going to choose not to believe he could have gotten more elsewhere until I know for sure that that's factual because there was no one else linked to him. Who else would it have been? Who else would have given him more than $3 million?
I don't know. You're
Where
right.
else would it have been?
I mean, it could be easy to throw that comment out, and there could have been a conversation between his agent and the team for $5 million somewhere, and it was not a good team. And it just was like, hey, we're willing to kind of talk right here and start with this number. And he knew that, and he didn't care. He wasn't worried about it. And I think, like, to your point, I hear you. I understand you not buying it, right? I get it. I'm with you too. I'm certainly skeptical about if that's real or not, right? Jalen Ramsey did the same thing when he went to the Dolphins, right? They could have traded me for a higher draft pick than they did, but they did me a solid. I mean, you're right. There's a lot of stars in the NFL that make those type of comments to save face there. But I think ultimately, like what you said is what needs to be said, right? Yeah, it's awesome support system. Team wide open, fits him at this point of his career, right? Mike McDaniel seems to start being that kind of guy that likes the stars from the league and kind of to collect them and bring them in there and kind of improve the vibe it just continue to add to it there in Miami. There's a little bit of that. And then I think the last part is like you're saying, he's into the scene. He's right now, Miami is the it spot. Everybody in that damn thing right there that you saw last night, the Netflix special, most of them live in South Florida right now on Star Island or this island or right off of South Beach or blah, 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 Rich Island or this blah, blah island. They're all there. It's the it spot in America. My wife wants to move there right now. She wants to move. She asked me to ask my bosses last year, can we do the show with Florio from Miami? The bosses didn't like that, but she wants to be in the it spot. So, yes, I'm sorry for that rant there. I was just having some fun, but that's part of the reason I think OBJ is there too.
You got a better shot getting me to move to Miami.
Okay. All right, we'll talk to Danielle. We'll see if we can work it out.
When Jill and I went down there for a few days in 2017, stayed at a nice hotel, can't hide money, not trying to, in the spirit of Mike McDaniel,
right,
and rented an Alfa Romeo that I ended up buying, not that one, but the exact model when I got home, and rented it and drove it up and down the coast and saw the different towns and cities and stopped here for lunch and stopped here for a snack.
And what made you go with the Alfa Romeo? You were just like, hey, it's Italian like me and let's go for it? Or, what made you go for that one?
She said she wanted to rent a car and drive.
Right.
And I said, that's fine, but it can't be. And I'm not going to name names of any models or makes that might be sponsored.
Wow, you've crapped on everybody else this morning. Crap on them,
but
too.
But they don't pay us. I don't want to say any specific types of cars that I wouldn't want to be driving.
Right.
So I said, if you're going to do it, get a nice car. And they had like a brochure at the hotel where we stayed. And, I wanted a Ferrari, of course, but it was a little, even for me, it's like, probably shouldn't do that. So she said, hey, they got this new Alfa Romeo. It's a brand new model. How about that? And it's like, fine. Yeah, Alfa Romeo, Italian car. Give it a try. And I loved it. It was great. It was so much fun to drive. And we got home, and I literally bought one like a week later.
Wow.
I found a place in North Carolina. They brought it up on a flatbed. They took away my RS4, which I really do miss 7 years. I wish I would have just kept the RS4 and bought the Alfa Romeo because the RS4 was awesome. But anyway, regardless.
Regardless.
I like Miami.
Okay.
My point is, you got a better shot getting me to move to Miami than you do getting me to move to Connecticut.
It's the spot right now. It really is.
State income tax.
Well,
income tax.
That's part of it too. And I understand that if you're really, really rich, right, which I live here in Greenwich, Connecticut, and all these damn hedge funders and stuff, if I was going to save 10% a year or whatever, and I was making $100 million, I'd understand that. I'd probably move to Florida for 6 months and 1 day as well. All right, so that's you're right. That's part of it. Let alone it's the scene right now is down there, and that's where OBJ wants to be. Right, and I understand that. Now, let me just say this, too, about the football aspect, right? There's goods. We just talked about the good and all that right there, but I don't think it's like all perfect and, roses and everything there that way. Now, why I say that is like, here's the good. We explained it. The offense, they know how to use people. They've been looking for a little bit of a guy who can be that mainstay third wide receiver. So that makes sense. Jaylen Waddle, we know, right, Mike, last year, a little injured. He's a smaller receiver. He's been banged up, right? But what I worry about if I'm Odell Beckham Jr. and I'm a fan of his, and I like him personally too, is Waddle stays healthy, Tyreek stays healthy. I mean, you're really, you're the third receiver, and you're going to have some guys that you're going to have to compete with there, right? I mean, you're not like going to be given the spot right now. You're not. Like guys like Braxton Berrios and, Ezukama, who I'm probably messing up his name, the Texas Tech kid who kind of shows up in the preseason every year, and they've kind of been waiting for him to be that third receiver, right? There's going to be some guys there where, again, one fault up, you hurt your ankle, somebody carves a spot for themselves, and that's where it's a little risky. But I think all in all that it's more positive than not for OBJ to go to Miami.
Well, we just talked a week or so ago about how they've got this crowded house at running back now, too.
Yeah, they do.
So how do you – it's one football. It's one football. I remember there was a time when David Letterman was trying to push this kooky idea of using two footballs. And – there was actually, at some level, a little kernel of wisdom in all the nuttiness, but there's still only one football. And you've got these great running backs. And they've added another one, a guy they love, a fast guy that they're going to put back there with the guys they already have. And you've got Tyreek Hill, who's going to want his touches because he's going to want to get to 2,000. He's not letting the 2,000 yards go. And then there's Jaylen Waddle, who's going to want to have his touches and his yards. How does OBJ fit into that? Last year with the Ravens, here's how he fit into things. He had 35 catches for 565 yards and 3 touchdowns. And it felt like it took a while
to get going.
For it to get going.
Yeah.
And what he looked and like he was always sleek and streamlined and spectacular with the body, like the rubbery body, reaching back, making catches.
Right.
Last year he just felt kind of bulky.
He got thicker
and clumpy.
Right.
Like wearing battle army boots, like, you know what I mean? It just felt like he wasn't the guy he used to be. He wasn't live. He wasn't, just the young jumping up and catching the ball, reaching back, doing this, catch the ball and take off. It was more meat and potatoes. It was more of a meat and potatoes vibe. And maybe that was part of being with the Ravens. I don't know. But we'll see what kind of vibe he gives off. You put him in that aqua uniform this year, and maybe it'll get back to like it was earlier in his career. But, I mean, he's been around a long time, and he's been injured multiple times, and he's not the guy that he was early in his career. I admire the fact that he's sticking with it, and he's clearly not the guy that he was before he got traded to the Browns during his time with the Giants.
No.
He's a very different player now.
Yeah.
But as you said in the past, teammates always love him.
Yep.
They gravitate to him.
Yep.
I think he'll fit the locker room vibe well there.
doubt.
I just don't know at the end of the day how much production he's going to add. Like, he could have gone to another team and gotten more of the offense.
Well, that's the thing. You could have been maybe like, hey, I could go here and maybe be a guy that's like kind of like, ooh, I'm number 2, and if the number 1 guy doesn't get it, they could feed me. Right? That's what I was trying to say a minute ago, where it's, this could be great. It's wide open. They're going to dish the ball. Tua's going to get it out of his hands quick, right? And all of that, and you're going to be in space. There's all that. But, yes, more times than not, that was the point I was trying to make, and I maybe didn't make it so clearly, is that...
Or I wasn't listening.
Well, all right. Well, yeah, you're a jerk. You're probably texting or typing to somebody else while you're doing a live TV show. But, but that's what it... But hey, the first 5 plays of the pass game, it's going to be Tyreek Hill's the first read. Then the next 5 plays are going to be, hey, Jaylen Waddle's the first read. And Tyreek Hill's second read on those plays. So then there's, okay, where's the niche for OBJ? He's going to be the number 2 or number 3 read on every play, which is still there, is a good thing. But to your point, there's probably some other teams out there where he could have found a spot where you go, no, he's our second option, and he gets, plays 6 through 10 in the pass playbook, right? So that's not going to happen. Right, but I think all in all, hey, it's wide open. He does still have, some ability in the open field and to run by people, and he loves the sport. Like, to your point, he's not what he was 4 or 5 years ago. Again, OBJ in his prime, I really don't even know if the public will ever really realize how great OBJ is. Great coaches in football, right? And I'm not going to throw out names, right? But great coaches in football used to talk to me about OBJ, right? And be like, he might be the greatest receiver I've ever seen, right? When it came to speed, route running, what he did with the ball in his hands after the catch, and, of course, the issues with the Giants and the injuries and the Browns and dying there and all of that, has limited the ability to explode maybe into the, Hall of Fame stats and all of that. But we'll see if he can finish strong with his career here down in Miami.
He had over 1,300 receiving yards as a rookie, and he missed 4 games. Remember,
it was insane.
Yes. He didn't make his debut until the 5th game of the season. They
were frustrated. Remember? They were like, when's this guy's hamstring ever going to work? Oh, my gosh, blah, 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 right? And he just exploded, right?
He averaged 108.8 yards per game as a rookie. Last year, he averaged a career-low 38.1 yards per game. So I admire the guy for sticking with it when he clearly isn't what or who he used to be. And I'm thinking, where else would he have fit? Like Cincinnati doesn't have a clear and obvious number 3. Clear and obvious, this is the guy who absolutely positively is the complement to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, assuming T. Higgins is even back. But you got that LSU thing. You got the LSU vibe in Minnesota with Justin Jefferson. Like Brandon Powell is the number 3. But you got to look at dollars for dollars, too. How much money are you going to invest in the position? $3 million for the guy who is WR3 at the best is a lot when you could have a guy whose rookie contract, first, second, third year of that, a lot less money to fill that spot on your team. And I think that's part of it too. And the Dolphins were willing to make that investment, that $3 million for a guy who might have to struggle. He's clearly not going to be higher than 3rd on the depth chart.
No.
Clearly.
No, he won't
That's his best case scenario.
Best case scenario is that the offense is awesome this year and that it's high flying and the ball's spread around to everybody and he's got good yards per catch and touchdowns and he can continue to kind of add, to his resume that way to stay alive in the NFL and continue his career here. Right. But, they'll find a niche for him. And I think, too, with Odell Beckham Jr., to what you're talking about in teams, right? I don't think he was going to go to just some slappy, right? He wasn't going to go to some team that was like, well, they have no chance of competing or being in any big football games. I don't think that was going to happen at this point of his career, right? So price tag, offense, where he's living, I think all kind of fit what he was looking for. And there was another point I was going, and then the other part of it, too, Mike, and you were kind of going down this road, is when you bring in OBJ, you got to be able to willing to handle OBJ. There's going to be a little bit more of like, hey, he's in your locker room. Hey, are you going to get OBJ the ball more? I mean, that's what it is. I'm watching the Grand Prix yesterday down in Miami. He was there taking pictures, was already with the team, got all that. He's a star of stars. So not all teams want to deal with that either, right, as their 3rd receiver. Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins, they seem to welcome it. They don't really blink under that kind of stuff or whatever, and they relish it and go on, and I respect them for that, and that's what they got going down there in South Beach.
I wonder what Tyreek Hill thinks of it, truthfully thinks of it. We know what he would say publicly, but I wonder what he really thinks of this guy who in his mind, he would very easily conclude, washed up, I still can do it, he can't. Don't start thinking you're going to come in here and fringe on my turf. I'm getting my 2,000 yards this year. As long as you stay out of my way, we're fine. I could feel that kind of vibe. Now, maybe Beckham can break down that wall and get through to him, and they'll be true friends.
I think he
can.
There'll
be no animosity or jealousy or pettiness or turf protection. But you got to ask yourself, whatever he brings to the team, can you manage it, and is it worth whatever you're going to get out of him by way of production, especially if he's not getting the ball the way that he would like. Now, last year, to his credit,
he was perfect. He was great.
There wasn't a sign. There wasn't any indication that he wasn't happy with his role. Getting $15 million fully guaranteed may go a long way toward allowing you to feel that way. When you've got 15 you're going to make and 3 on the upside, that's one thing. When you got 3 you're going to make and 5.25 on the upside, tied presumably to playing time, catches, etc., you might get a little frustrated if you're not getting the ball as often as you think. And is the quarterback going to get you the ball? Is he going to get you the ball reliably? That's the other question that if you talk about it too much, you get Tua on upset with you. But how does OBJ feel about Tua as the quarterback? Because, you could have some play designs between trying to cover Hill and Waddle. OBJ could be wide open. is the ball going to come to him when that happens? That'll be interesting to see.
No, I mean, I think you're right. Right? How he gets infused in the offense. They're going to want to keep the running backs on the field like you talked about. When they do that, do they keep a tight end on the field too, right? If they got Mostert and, Achane, right, at the backfield, there's two backs. Okay, we know Waddle and Tyreek Hill are in the game. Now it's like, wait, is it tight end in or is it OBJ, right? But yeah, there's going to be a spreading of the ball, and we'll see. They got a chance to be exciting. We know OBJ, Tyreek, Jaylen, Waddle. Damn, that's a fast three, right? And to your point too, with what you're talking about, like the pecking order, right? The hierarchy in the locker room. There'll be no doubt, right? Here's, OBJ is everything we've always heard. Great teammate, great leader. I think he could check his ego at the door. And we know within the NFL pecking order and the hierarchy, right? He's going to go, wait, I'm making 3. That guy's making 25. They think he's better, okay? And then he's going to watch film, and he's going to go, and they're going to be like, hey, we're going to put this play in this week. And he's going to look at Tyreek Hill on film and go, well, I'm not that anymore. He's the man. And that'll all take care of itself right off the bat, and I would think it really is going to be a good thing. I'm OBJ, the leader, is way better than people realize or give him credit for, like you said earlier.
And look, you've got a team that's trying to learn how to win in the postseason. One of your criticisms, and we tried to bring this up to Mike McDaniel.
We talked to him a little
during the time that, when you interview Mike McDaniel, you have to accept the fact that you're going to get 5 questions at the most.
Maybe 3.
He's going to give you long, maybe 2.
Yeah.
He's going to give you long, entertaining and informative, but very long answers. And sometimes guys do that on purpose because it limits the number of hard questions they're going to be asked. I think that's just who he is. He meanders,
right,
but he does it in a very entertaining and informative way. But does Beckham bring that element that you're looking for? I think you're looking for kind of in-your-face grit, toughness, old school, rough and tumble football vibe. Now, maybe today's Beckham brings more of it than yesterday's Beckham did, but what he brings is championship pedigree. He's been with a team that's climbed to the top of the mountain. He can help get the mindset right as to what it takes, not just to get to the playoffs, but to win when you get there. His best run in recent years was the postseason in 2021 when people say he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. That's factually wrong. The ACL was torn when he showed up with the Rams. They wanted to fix it right away. Neil Alatrash wanted to fix it right away. He said, no, I'm going to ride out the season. And it held together until that first half of the Super Bowl. He went out there and had some of his best, most impactful team performances with no ACL in one of his knees. So that mindset might help make the difference when it's time to get to the postseason and win a game.
Yeah, that's right. We saw he was certainly a good leader for the Ravens last year, like we talked about. Sean McVay and the Rams raved about him and what he did there, right? So hopefully he can bring a little bit of that pedigree there. But they got a chance to be exciting. We know that. Let alone they got some stars who are going to be injured, and they got to hold down the fort until they get healthy on the defensive side of the ball. We might not see really the real Miami Dolphin football team and what they potentially can be in totality until the halfway point of the year, right? So they might have to win early on in the year with, hey, it's new defensive guy down there. They might have to win with the offense and outscoring people without Bradley Chubb and Jaylen Phillips and no Christian Wilkins, right? It's a different squad down there this year. They got some obstacles to overcome early on. They're not going to be able to walk on the field and just go, we're definitely one of the most talented teams in the league right off the bat. They got killed in free agency. They got guys that are injured that aren't going to be back right away. They've had some changes to that team. It's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back or how good they actually are this year.
And to a point that you've made from time to time, that's where the schedule, the specific configuration of who they play and when they play them becomes important. You want to get some winnable games early in the year. You don't want to get murderer's row right out of the gate because then you could be on the wrong side of the murder and you're done, and that's it. And then that's when Stephen Ross starts wondering, what changes do I need to make for the future starting in 2025. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.